Flopsy's Bunnies. There's Mr. McGregor. The prick he is. The Tale of the Flopsy Bunnies by Beatrix Potter, author of The Tale of Peter Rabbit. Frederick Warren. The reproductions in this book have been made using the most modern electronic scanning methods from entirely new transparencies of Beatrix Potter's original watercolors. They enable Beatrix Potter's skill as an artist to be appreciated as never before, not even during her own lifetime. This is first published in 1909, and this edition with new reproductions first published in 1987. And it says here, for all little friends of Mr. McGregor and Peter and Benjamin. I don't know who the hell's friends with Mr. McGregor. Here we go. Bunny, 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 bunny. It says, it is said that the effect of eating too much lettuce is soporific. I have never felt sleepy after eating lettuces, but then I am not a rabbit. They certainly had a very soporific effect upon the Flopsy Bunnies. When Benjamin Bunny grew up, he married his cousin Flopsy. They had a large family. They were very improvident and cheerful. I do not remember the separate names of their children. They were generally called the Flopsy Bunny. As there was not always quite enough to eat, Benjamin used to borrow cabbages from Flopsy's brother, Peter Rabbit, who kept a nursery garden. Sometimes Peter Rabbit had no cabbages to spare. When this happened, the Flopsy Bunnies went across the field to a rubbish heap in the ditch outside Mr. McGregor's garden. Mr. McGregor's rubbish heap was a mixture. There were jam pots and paper bags, and mountains of chopped grass from the mowing machine, which always tastes oily, and some rotten vegetable marrows, and an old boot or two. One day, oh joy, there were a quantity of overgrown lettuces which had shot into flower. The Flopsy Bunnies simply stuffed the lettuces by degree, one after another. They were overcome with slumber and laid down in the mow grass. Benjamin was not so much overcome as his children. Before going to sleep, he was sufficiently wide awake to put a paper bag over his head to keep off the flies. The little Flopsy Bunnies slept delightfully in the warm sun. From the lawn beyond the garden came the distant clackety sound of the mowing machine. The blue bottles buzzed about the wall, and a little old mouse picked over the rubbish among the jam pots. I can tell you her name. She was called Thomasina Tittlemouse, a wood mouse with a long tail. Thomasina's my mom's cat's name. There's Thomasina Tittlemouse. Get it, Thomasina? She rustled across the paper bags and awakened Benjamin Bunny. The mouse apologized profusely and said that she knew Peter Rabbit. While she and Benjamin were talking close under the wall, they heard a heavy tread above their heads, and machine so soporific. They dreamt that their mother Flopsy tucked them in a hay bed. Mr. McGregor looked down after emptying the sack. He saw some funny little brown tips of ears sticking up through the lawn mowings. He stared at them for some time. Presently, a fly settled on one of them and it moved. Mr. McGregor climbed down on the rubbish heap. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little rabbits, he said he as he dropped them into his sack. The Flopsy bunnies dreamt that their mother was turning them over in bed. They stirred a little in their sleep, but still they did not wake up. Mr. McGregor needs to mind his own business. Like, what the hell? Mr. McGregor tied up the sack and left it on the wall. He went to put away the mowing machine. Mr. McGregor is the devil. Like, what the hell? Mr. McGregor, you better not. While he was gone, Mrs. Flopsy Bunny, who had remained at home, came across the field. She looked suspiciously at the sack and wondered where everybody was. Ooh, girl. Mr. McGregor done stole your babies and put them in a sack. Then the mouse came out of her jam pot and Benjamin took the paper bag off his head and they told the doleful tale. Benjamin and Flopsy were in despair. They could not undo the string, but Mrs. Tittlemouse was a resourceful person. She nibbled a hole in the bottom corner of the sack. Get it, Mrs. Tittlemouse? She's gonna save them babies. The little rabbits were pulled out and pinched to wake them up. Their parents stuffed the empty sack with 3 rotten vegetable marrows, an old black brush, and 2 decayed turnips. It's very specific. Then they all hid under a bush and watched for Mr. McGregor. Look at them. Mr. McGregor came back and picked up the sack and carried it off. He carried it hanging down as if they were rather heavy. The Flopsy bunnies followed at a safe distance. Why the hell are you following? Mind your own business. Time to go home. Flopsy. They watched him go into the house and then they crept up to the window to listen. Mr. McGregor threw down the sack on the stone floor in a way that would have been extremely painful to the Flopsy bunnies if they had happened to be inside. They could hear him drag his chair on the flags and chuckle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little rabbits, Mr. McGregor, said Mr. McGregor. Mr. McGregor's fucked. Hey, what's that? What have they been spoiling now? Inquired Mrs. McGregor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little rabbits, repeated Mr. McGregor, counting on his fingers. 1, 2, 3. Don't you be silly. What do you mean, you silly old man? In the sack. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, replied Mr. McGregor. The youngest Flopsy bunny got up upon the windowsill. Mrs. McGregor took hold of the sack and felt it. She said she could feel 6, but they must be old rabbits because they were so hard in all different shapes. Not fit to eat, but the skins will do fine on line my old coat. Line your old cloak, shouted Mr. McGregor. I shall sell them and buy myself baccy. Rabbit tobacco. I shall skin them and cut off their heads. Damn. Mr. McGregor better get a freaking hobby that isn't this. Mrs. McGregor untied the sack and put her hand inside. When she felt the vegetables, she became very, very angry, and she said Mr. McGregor had done it on purpose. And Mr. McGregor became very angry too. One of the rotten marrows came flying through the kitchen window and hit youngest Flopsy bunny. It was rather hurt. No. was time to go home. Girl, it was time to go home as soon as you got them out of that damn bed. So, Mr. McGregor did not get his tobacco. Mrs. McGregor did not get her rabbit skins, but next Christmas, Thomasina Tittlemouse got a present of a rabbit wool to make herself a cloak and a hood and a handsome muff and a pair of warm mittens. Girl, Thomasina is looking fly as hell. We love her. And that's the end of that. That is the end of that. I have another one, so I'll read this one as well. It is called The Tale of Squirrel Nutkin by Beatrix Potter. The Tale of Squirrel Nutkin. This one is from 1903, so it's older, but still republished in 87. A story for Nora. This is a tale about a tale that belonged to a little red squirrel. His name was Nutkin. He had a brother called Twinkleberry and a great many cousins. They lived in a wood at the edge of the lake. There's Nutkin. In the middle of the lake, there is an island covered with trees and nut bushes, and amongst those trees stand a hollow oak tree, which is the house of an old owl, who is called Old Brown. Not Old Brown. Old Brown. One autumn, when the nuts were ripe and the leaves on the hazel bushes were golden and green, Nutkin and Twinkleberry and all the other little squirrels came out of the wood and down to the edge of the lake. There's so many of them. They made their rafts out of twigs and they paddled away over the water to Owl Island to gather nuts. Each squirrel had a little sack and a large oar and spread out his tail for a sail. They also took with them an offering of 3 fat mice as a present for Old Brown and put them upon his doorstep. Then Twinkleberry and the other little squirrels each made a low bow and said politely, "Old Mr. Brown, will you favor us with permission to gather nuts upon your land?" I like the owl, he's beautiful. But Nutkin was excessively impertinent in his manners. He bobbed up and down like a little red cherry, singing, riddle me, rot, tote, a little wee man in a red coat, a staff in his hand, and a stone in his throat. If you'll tell me this riddle, I'll give you a groat. Now this riddle is as old as the hills, Mr. Brown, and paid no attention to whatever to Nutkin. He shut his eyes obstinately and went to sleep. That reminds me of my Nana. Oh, I never showed you the picture. Old Brown is all that. The squirrels filled their little sacks with nuts and sailed away home in the evening. But the next morning they all came back again to Owl Island, and Twinkleberry and the others brought a fine fat mole and laid it on the stone in front of Old Brown's doorway and said, "Mr. Brown, will you favor us with your gracious permission to gather some more nuts?" But Nutkins, who had no respect, began... Oh, I never showed you the picture. Nice. But Nutkins, who had no respect, began to dance up and down, tickling old Mr. Brown with a nettle and singing, "Oh, Mr. B, riddle me ree, hitty-bitty within the wall, hitty-bitty without the wall. If you touch hitty-bitty will bite you." Mr. Brown woke up suddenly and carried them all into his house. in Nutkin's face. Presently a little thread of blue smoke from a wood fire came up from the top of the tree, and Nutkin peeped through the keyhole and sang, "A house full, a howl full, and you cannot gather a bowl full." Why is Nutkin so annoying? That fool is gonna get us Oh. The squirrel searched for nuts all over the island and filled their little sacks, but Nutkin gathered oak apples, yellow and scarlet, and sat upon the beech stump playing marbles and watching the door of old Mr. Brown. He better get to minding his own fucking business. Holy shit, Nutkins. I'm worried about your future. On the third day, the squirrels got up very early and went fishing and caught 7 fat minnows as a present for Old Brown. They paddled over the lake and landed under a crooked chestnut. What? They paddled over the lake and landed under a crooked chestnut tree on Owl Island. Oh my god, they're fishing. This one's so cute. Twinkleberry and 6 other little squirrels each carried a fat minnow, but Nutkin, who had no nice manners, brought no present at all. He ran in front singing, "The man in the wilderness said to me, 'How many strawberries grow in the sea?' I answered him, as I thought good, 'As many red herrings as grow in the wood.' But old Mr. Brown took no interest in riddles, not even when the answer was provided to him." He's cute though, isn't he? On the 4th day, the squirrels brought a present of 6 fat beetles, which were good as plums in plum pudding, for old Mr. Brown. Each beetle was wrapped up carefully in a dog leaf fastened with a pine needle pin. But Nutkin sang as rudely as ever, "Old Mr. B, riddle me ree. Full flower of England, fruit of Spain, met together in a shower with rain. Put in a bag tied around with a string. You'll tell me this riddle, I'll give you a ring." Which was ridiculous of Nutkin because he had not got any ring to give Old Brown. There's our little packages. Nutkins is annoying, isn't he? The other squirrels hunted up and down the nut bushes, and Nutkin gathered robin pin cushions of the briar bush and stuck them full of pine needles. He's got ADHD, for sure. For sure. On the 5th day, the squirrels brought a present of wild honey. It was so sweet and sticky that they licked their fingers as they put it upon the stone. This time they had stolen it out of a bumblebee's nest on the tippity top of the hill, but Nutkin skipped up and down, singing, "Hum-a-bum, buzz, buzz, hum-a-bum, buzz. As I went over Tipple-tine, I met a flock of bonny swine, some yellow-nacked, some yellow-backed. They were the very bonniest swine that ever went over Tipple-tine." Tipple-tine, bro. Old Mr. Brown turned up his eyes in disgust at the impertinence of Nutkin, but he ate up the honey. I know Nutkins is gonna end up fucked up at the end of the story. The squirrel filled their little sacks with nuts, but Nutkin sat upon a big flat rock and played nine pins with a crab apple and green fir cones. I cannot see. Oh, there you go. Nutkins, Butkins. On the 6th day, which was Saturday, the squirrels came again for the last time. They brought a new laid egg in a little brush basket as a last parting present for Old Brown. But Nutkins ran in front, laughing and shouting, "Humpty Dumpty lies in the back," while a white counterpane round his neck. 40 doctors and 40 rights cannot put Humpty Dumpty to rights. There's a little eggy. Now old Mr. Brown took an interest in eggs. He opened one eye and shut it again, but still he did not speak. He's like, what the fuck? Look at his eyes. He's like, not for me, bro. Nutkins began. Arthur O'Power has broken his band. He comes roaring up the land. The King of Scots, with all his power, cannot turn Arthur off the power. Nutkins made a whirling noise to sound like the wind, and he took a running jump right onto the head of Old Brown. Then all at once there was a flutterment and scufflement, and a loud squeak. The other squirrels scuttered away into the bushes. I told you, Nutkins. I fucking told you. When they all came back, very cautiously peeping around the tree, there was Old Brown sitting on his doorstep, quite still with his eyes closed, as if nothing had happened. But Nutkin was in his waistcoat pocket. This looks like the end of the story, but it isn't. Old Brown carried Nutkins into his house and held him up by the tail, intending to skin him, but Nutkins pulled so very hard that his tail broke in two, and he dashed up the staircase and escaped out the attic window. And to this day, if you meet Nutkins up a tree and ask him a riddle, he will throw sticks at you and stamp his feet and scold and shout, the end. Nutkins with his little fucking tail. He's lucky he didn't get eat up. Alright, thank you.